Another thing I want to touch on about my creative process, and that, I call it bizarre. Butch, was like, oh, don't call it bizarre. It's very unique. It's creative. Don't come across in a negative way. I
But
think, yeah,
shout
oh
out.
yeah, Butch quick. Yeah, it's like he wants me to always talk about it in a positive light because it is unique and interesting. But I get a little nervous and a little insecure. Like people may look at myself like this guy's crazy, but
We always admire crazy after crazy. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
when it's
yeah,
happening, we're like, oh, that's insane. And then down the road, it's like that's genius. But they had the foresight
appreciate it.
to see ahead. So nah, man,
So what inspires me? Everyday life really to me is paintings, and
okay,
the reasonings and animation and stuff, things that aren't bound by gravity.
okay,
Because if sometimes, as even as a photographer, when you shoot, right, you're shooting knowing that gravity affects everything, like how the clothes is going to be draped on that person, right? The gravity actually forms your face, how your skin, forms on your skull. Um, but with paint, when people paint, they control everything, and there's no gravity when it comes to painting a scenery.
mhm,
And when I look at those things, where someone's floating through the sky and they're on a cloud or whatever, or, some person, doesn't have arms, whatever, you just kind of like make it into a sculpture. They're painting based on whatever they have in their head.
yeah,
And so when I try to go and shoot something, I'm shooting trying to achieve what I saw in that painting and not letting other things control or dictate what I can do. And when I do it that way, I feel like my the creative process just kind of opens up,
okay.
and just gives me the freedom to just go out and explore and try to push the envelope.
That's interesting.
That's me.
That's ill. That's ill. That's I've never actually heard it approach that from that way. And I never actually
Yeah,
you're telling me like gravity helps shape the form of how your skin
yeah, it does.
and your skull. That's an interesting perspective. That's an interesting way of looking at it as well too. Because we're 3D shape, and when you're shooting on the two, you're painting. It's a two-dimensional painting.
Yeah,
So you actually have to create all of the 3D and any type of effects and depth of field with how you paint
yeah,
stuff like that. I've always been fascinated how you guys come up with lighting because you actually like photographers. We learn lighting from painting, and you guys, you know what I mean. Photographers work with light that's given to us, and then if we
yep.
go into strobes, and then we can manipulate the light and things like that. Where you guys just have I guess the light, the spark in your mind of light, and you create where the light's hitting, where it's coming from, all of that stuff is in traditional painting. You know what I mean?
So, and someone I would recommend people to look at, and I'm going to kill his name here. He's an Italian Renaissance artist. Is Caravangio.
Okay.
I have a book here. I ordered this book recently. He has so much work in terms of like very passionate, a lot of spiritual, but it's just rich, beautiful imagery and the emotions that he put on these people's faces. I'm not sure if he's working off of a model or from memory,
Yeah.
when he paints these things, these angels and such. When I look at this as a photographer, you're like you just mentioned, look at if this was like a lighting, like the lighting on this is dope.
It's perfect. Yeah, you
The
got the
dark
highlight, you got
background,
the
he's
shadows.
topping off. The foreground is there. And so when you look at it, you're like, okay, how can I set up my lighting this to capture something like this?
Yep. Yep.
So this inspires me.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on here. And you may have seen something. I recreated this here where
Yep.
the lady cut off the guy's head.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, how can I create this in a photo? And using Photoshop, right? I have to lay my head down in front of my wife, lay my head on this platter. Of course, I'm gonna Photoshop off my body, and I'm gonna stand next to her. I'm gonna do all these things. So again, I'm inspired by paintings.
That's ill. That's ill. Now, how important is the light when you're doing these things? I see some of the crazy setups. Do you have any of the pictures that I had sent you?
Yeah, I remember some. Important in the lighting. Very important, right? Because everything. If I'm going to do a composite of multiple images into one thing, everything has to be consistent and have one light source, so
Mhm.
it matches up. You can't have, and that's how you can separate pros from amateurs, right? Sometimes they'll just throw things in and grab images off the web or whatever, and they're not paying any mind to where the light is hitting and where the shadows are falling. And so you can see right away that this does not work. This doesn't, it's just kind of a mashup.